Good morning, I'm Dave and welcome back to Dave's Taste Buds. I got a great episode for you today, but let me answer a couple of quick questions for you that I know you have already. We're 3 seconds into this video and you're already thinking, Dave, why do you look like shit? Well, I'll tell you why. Because it's early on Sunday morning. That's why I'm still in my pajamas. That's why I just threw on this sweatshirt. That's why I haven't even brushed my teeth yet.
You're gross.
Because I gotta get my Italian gravy on for today, right now, so we can simmer. I could be wearing a suit if I wanted to use this trash, but I don't. This, open it up, put it in a pan, heat it up, serve it, get out of town. We're gonna do it the right way, and I also know another question you're having. Dave, you're not Italian, you don't know how to make gravy, you shouldn't even be talking about it.
No, you're not even Italian, right?
Well, I've learned a lot along the way, a lot from my beautiful wife Gina, so shout out to her. I've worked on some techniques over the years, I've tweaked it, I've come up with a recipe that I like, it's kind of my twist on it, so I'm gonna get into it, I'm gonna show you how I do it, hopefully you like it, I'm sure you will, it's delicious, but that's my opinion. So then we're gonna taste mine up against this, we'll get into that a little bit, so let's get this episode started and let me show you how I do it. So the first thing I like to do is I like to get my sausages cooked off in the pan that I make the gravy in. So I'm gonna get the pan fired up. Put it all the way at the bottom, you don't need a whole lot. I'm gonna let this heat up because what I like to do is I like it to build that crust from the sausages down inside the pan. And I like to deglaze it with some red wine. And you don't need a lot of oil because obviously the sausages have a lot of fat in them naturally. So once the pan's hot, just gonna drop these in here. I'm gonna get them seared on the outside. We're gonna lower the heat a little bit. We're gonna let these things cook off. And then we're gonna take them out of the pan.
5 minutes later.
All right, everybody, now that we have the sausages cooked off, I tempt them to make sure they're over 165, they're good to go. Now comes the fun part. We're going to take these sausages right out of here. We're going to want to make sure that pan stays nice and hot because we're going to deglaze this. There we go. That's beautiful. Let's just set aside. Turn up our heat, make sure it's nice and high. Pan's nice and hot. Little red wine, whatever you have laying around is good. We got some Merlot here now. Put it a little low. See that? That's going to pull all that flavor right off the bottom of the pan. Now this is why my gravy is darker than most, because I take this extra step. Like it or not, that's what I do. A little more oil, keeping this pan nice and hot. Now, all we're going to do is start putting in our ingredients, getting them ready. I like to do some really finely diced up onions. Get those in there. Little chopped up garlic. That's going in there too. Lots of garlic. There we go. Now I don't go into a lot about how much I use of certain ingredients because it's really just, I mean, it's a lot of it is personal preference. I mean, if we were baking a cake, if we were making bread and we were using yeast and flour and all that, we need to use, you know, teaspoons, grams even, if we wanted to get really accurate depending on what we were doing. But when it comes to something like this, start with what you think might be a good amount depending on how much you're making. That's a difference too. I mean, I'm gonna make enough gravy here for probably 20 people by the time I have leftovers for tomorrow. So start with what you think is right, and then you can always add more. The one thing you can't do is you can't take it out once it's in there, so just make sure it's too little and not too much. Here we go. We get that pan nicely deglazed. I'm just gonna cook the onions down a little bit. Now the garlic's gonna look a little brown, but it's not burnt, it's not overly cooked, it's sucking up the dark oils and the wine. Just gonna move that around a little bit. Next in, tomatoes. Pastene, kitchen ready. As you can see it, it's what we always use. Put that right in there. This is going to call for 3 of the 28 ounce cans. Number 2. And in goes number 3. Let's see Ragu do this.
It's what my old man would have called a Wonder Bread whop, you know. He eats his Sunday gravy out of a jar.
I like to turn up the heat, because now we're talking about getting this thing simmered. I like to give it a quick stir before my herbs go in. Oh, it's looking good already. If you could smell it, you would agree that it smells good too. In here, I have, wish I had something to point to this better. Salt, pepper, obviously, basil, oregano, onion powder, garlic powder, little crushed red pepper. Again, you know, start with what you think. You can always add more, you can never add less. I do like to use a healthy amount of parsley in here too. Now, if you look at it, it's a little thick. So what I like to do too is I like to get a little bit of water in there, but I'm never just gonna bring water from the sink over here and dump it in. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna rinse out these cans, rinse it out, splash it around, and get that in there. Now, as you can see, we're not adding plain water in here. It's got a little bit of flavor. I hate to just water everything down. So I like to use half a can, sometimes a little bit less per can of tomato. But you can always test it. Because this is gonna simmer, it is gonna reduce, it's gonna cook down a little bit, but it's not a whole lot. So I'm not even gonna add the whole half a can of this one. And this is what I'm talking about. This is why everybody's Sunday gravy is a little bit different from everybody else's. Now, another essential part of your Sunday gravy is putting in your sausages and meatballs back in here. So, hopefully these are all gonna fit. I'm not really sure if they are. These meatballs were made by my lovely wife. Hot out of the pan, so they're a little hot. Let me know in the comments below if you want me to do a meatball episode too. Same with the gravy. Everybody's meatballs are a little bit different. My wife has shown me the way when it comes to this. Make the stuff up, make it into balls, and then fry it in the pan. I'm just not a fan of putting them into the oven. I want them to have that nice crispness because they're gonna hang out in this gravy for hours and hours and hours. So the last thing we want is our meatballs getting it all mushy. Sausages are hot still, that's for sure. See that? That's what we're talking about. If it's perfectly in the pan, we're gonna let this chill a little bit more. And by chill, I mean hang out on the stove, simmer, reduce. Oh, and it's gonna be so good. And you know what? Ragu can suck it at this point. All right. Coming up, the conclusion. Okay, now that you've seen how I make my gravy, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna test it out. This has been simmering for 5.5 hours. It's almost crunch time. I got people showing up to the house real soon. Still have a lot of stuff to do.
I'm running out of time here.
So, this is ready to go. This is ready to go, if you even wanna get into it. Ragu, it's a staple. A lot of people just bust open the can and use it. I mean, I gotta be honest, I really thought the ingredients were gonna be worse. I mean, I expected to see a lot of, you know, sodium phosphates and other preservatives. Really not. I mean, tomato puree, salt, olive oil, dehydrated onions, dehydrated garlic, spices, garlic powder, and onion powder. I mean, that's it. There's really nothing nasty in here other than, well, I guess the taste, depending on your opinion. So, I put a little bit into each of these ramekins. I'm gonna test it out, heated them both up. I mean, it's acidic too, and it's a little bit flavorless. It It needs work. If you wanted to take it as a base and tweak it, if you absolutely had to, I guess you could, but you know, wouldn't be my first choice of things to do. I mean, it's all the same consistency. It's just perfectly smooth. You can't see any seasonings in it at all. Mine, I mean, you know, you can tell the different textures from the tomatoes. You can see the herbs, you can see the garlic, you can see what's in it. Obviously I've already tasted this 1,000 times today just to make sure it's perfect. Like I said, you know, you can start with a base product, but just taste it as you go and tweak it. Make it your own. Forget it. Every time I taste it, it's better.
100% of the time.
So, I mean, it takes a long time. It takes a long time to cook down and simmer and get it the way you want, but to get it started and start it up, especially if you're not cooking sausages and meatballs with it, if you're just doing a plate of, you know, spaghetti and sauce, it's easy. It takes a while to cook, but it doesn't take a long time to make. So the prep is next to nothing. So do yourself a favor. If you have this in your cabinet, you know, give it away. You know how to make it yourself. It's 1,000 times better. You just make it for somebody else and blow their minds. So, hope you enjoyed it. Do me a solid. I got other great videos here. I got a whole list of videos down here. Right around here should be a subscribe thing. Just click it. Subscribe to my channel. It supports me. Like it, comment, anything you can do. I want to keep making these videos. In fact, while I was making this video, I was shooting another video simultaneously, so I got a ramen video coming out soon too. I've got all kinds of videos. I've got how to cook certain things, I've got how to treat certain things, kitchen gadgets, all kinds of stuff. So check it out, like, subscribe, and once you're done with all that, before everybody starts showing up, go cook something.